Hi, it's Tim Hagen from Progress Coaching, and welcome to another episode of Coaching Conversations. And I wanted to make you aware of something very cool that we're doing on a subscription basis, and we'll put a link in each one of our episodes. But every Wednesday, we're going to be doing what we call an audio podcast workshop. That workshop will be roughly about 14 to maybe 20 minutes per episode, with each month having a theme from a coaching model, using feedback strategically, to coaching self-awareness, and so on. So if you could look in the body or in the content description of each episode, and you will see a link where you can join this subscription. These are literally 4 workshops every month, teaching specific strategies to address a particular area of workplace coaching, as it relates, again, to things like awareness, motivation, teamwork, and what have you. Here's the cool thing. It's only $10 per month, and each month you will get a handout that we will follow along with. So we also give you a tool for you to take notes as we go through each episode. We hope you'll check it out.
So when somebody needs to have a tough conversation, what we're going to do is teach you some different questioning skills and frameworks that we actually teach in our Coaching Champion program. And one of the simplest things that we can do is to use a technique called reframing. Now, let me give you context to it. When you think about a marriage counselor, what he'll often or she will often do is sit down with a couple and say, well, look, we understand there are problems. Why did the two of you initially get together? And what the marriage counselor does is gets them to revisit the good things, gets them to look at the good things of why they got together. And what it does is it reestablishes an emotional connection. It makes talking about the tough stuff a little bit easier. And when you reframe a situation. And one of my favorite books of all time is called Stress for Success. And Jim Lohr would talk about the number one thing you have to do is coach yourself and ask yourself a question such as, what are you going to do opportunistically? How is this an opportunity? What opportunity does this situation present? And I remember years ago when my mom died, someone said, oh, yeah, you'll try to test that theory now. It doesn't work. And actually it did. We ended up giving my mom's apartment, her 3-bedroom duplex that she rented from us, that she actually didn't pay us, but we actually helped my mom towards the end of her life. And we gave it to one of the tenants who kept an eye on her for 9 months free to help him and his marriage start off on a really good financial positive foot. We turned it into a huge opportunity and we passed it forward. And this guy, Andrew, Daniel has kept in touch with me and he's passed it forward. And so, every situation, there's a silver lining, but it takes mental training. It takes mindset training. Most people won't even attend that training on their own. That's why they need you and me, the coaching champions, to say, what are you going to do to successfully overcome this thoughtfully and professionally? What are you going to do to engage with that person diplomatically? What if you actually solve this problem directly with the person who's frustrating you? How do you think that might serve you well? Those questions are called self-actualized questions. They're typically what questions with a success imperative. What are you going to do to successfully, and then you fill in the blank. Now you can add some different behavioral elements such as diplomatically and professionally. And what that does is it triggers the person to think that way. Doesn't mean they do it beautifully, but they think that way. Number 2, something called hypothetical. Hypothetically, what if you and your boss or you and that teammate were to resolve that issue? Honestly, how would you feel? Void of how it would occur, how would you feel? Typically, people say, oh, I'd feel relieved. I feel relaxed. I would feel like a huge weight off my shoulder. The next question then becomes, what are you going to do to make that happen calmly and professionally? So when you use the word hypothetically, they can't even think of what's possible because the emotional baggage that they have on their shoulders. Number 3, I go back to the WIFT. I go back to this thing called the motivator. See, if you have a teammate that is wanting to do something with their career, and let's say maybe it's a promotion, maybe it's working in a different type of job, maybe it's starting their own business, whatever it might be, everybody typically should find out, and most people have something underneath where they have a goal, they have an aspiration, something they'd love to do. And when we know that, because we're inquisitive enough to care about our teammates enough to find those things out, you can bring it into the conversation. So let's make it simple. Let's say we're talking to somebody named Tom, and Tom wants to become a manager. And let's say Tom is your teammate. You might say, well, Tom, what are you going to do to engage with Julie? And what if you two were to work it out? How do you think that might serve you well in terms of your pursuit of becoming a first-time manager? What I just did is I tied in the situational circumstance to his motivator. He wants to become a manager. See, when we have these conversations and when we train people how to have these conversations of contextual value, and we call it coaching champions. If you have a team of coaching champions, it will protect the workplace. It will solidify teamwork and collaboration and communication. Thank you for listening to another episode of Coaching Conversations by Tim Hagen and Progress Coaching. Now, our company is always coming out with new and innovative solutions to help leaders coach their employees. And recently, we just created a new service called Coach to You, where leaders can pick and choose topics and assign 7 to 21-day programs for employees to learn and, more importantly, apply actions and then reflect and share what they're going to do going forward as a result of the learning. It's called Coach to You. We're literally bringing coaching to your employees. If you're intrigued, we'll have a link in each one of our episodes where you can get more information. And again, thank you so much for listening to another episode.